Welcome to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharan Raghavan.
I have a question for you today. A lot of people think of marketing as a creative job. And here you are on this episode, on this podcast, giving away framework after framework. Doesn't using a framework actually kill creativity?
Interesting. Actually, great question. I can also tell you that when I teach marketing courses, a lot of my students also ask this very exact question. You talk about frameworks. Marketing is supposed to be a creative job, which it indeed is. How do they coexist?
So
Right?
let's get started with that. Why
Okay.
do we have or need frameworks?
Yeah. So, in fact, before getting into marketing, let's talk about frameworks in general. Yeah. And let's just look at, from the time that we start learning, we start using or learning one or the other framework. So, when you're
Right.
in school,
Hmm.
and when you have to write an essay, so the teacher tells you that this is how you write an essay. So, whatever is the topic, you introduce the topic in the first paragraph. Then you get into details of it in the second paragraph. Then you possibly talk about its significance in the third paragraph. And then you kind of conclude it towards the end, presenting your point of view in the fourth paragraph. Yeah. So that's how they teach you how to write a long answer or to write an essay, right? Then when you grow up a little bit, you start doing science experiments. So then we get taught another set of framework as to how to write an experiment, right? An experiment is usually done, a scientific experiment is usually done to explore a phenomena or to explain a phenomena. So therefore you follow the structure of saying what is the phenomena or what is the problem, scientific problem, what is your hypothesis of it, then what is the experiment you're going to do or you have done, what are your visual and other observations, therefore what are the results that you saw, and therefore what is your conclusion, and are there exceptions, if any, observed during that period of time.
You actually remember this.
No, also because I actively teach my kids. Yeah.
That's probably why I never took up science. But okay, I get the science aspect of it. Sir.
Yeah.
But even for essays, yes, we were taught that. Wouldn't that become templatized if we just follow a certain format?
It might. So therefore, what I was trying to get to was that we are exposed to frameworks from the very start of our learning journey.
Right.
Right. And hence it begets the question, why are frameworks introduced to us? Right.
Right.
And my explanation there is that the purpose of a framework is to train our physical and mental behavior to get the best ROI against the effort that we put in.
Can you explain that? What's ROI against effort?
So, for example, you are, suppose, a carpenter, right? Now, you want to cut a certain piece of wood. Now, somebody who is not trained would possibly start cutting it straight like this. Somebody who's trained might use the saw like this. And they might be taught that if you use it like this, you'll be able to cut faster.
Right.
Yeah. So, there are tricks of trade which help you get to the desired result faster. Right. So therefore any kind of framework is possibly a formula which teaches you to get to your desired result faster or gives you the better ROI on your effort. Effort is to result ratio. Yeah. And the operative word here, Sharan, in what I said is train. Yeah. Because when you talk about training means that the purpose of a framework is to induce a habit. It could be a mental habit or it could be a physical habit. Yeah. So therefore, and hence when you follow a framework over and over and over again, you tend to get habituated in either thinking or doing things in a certain manner. Yeah. And the purpose of that habit, therefore, is to get you to your desired results faster than you would have otherwise got. Yeah.
It is like using the framework to pick up the fundamentals, after which you can start applying your skills to it.
Yeah, correct. So therefore, what I usually tell my students when I'm about to get into the frameworks class, the first thing that I say is I teach frameworks so that you can forget them.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So the purpose is that you are able to give a framework to somebody. they practice it over and over again. It becomes their second nature to think in that manner, and then they don't need to remember the framework because their thinking is already trained.
Got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
So therefore, the importance of learning framework, and hence to any learner who is out there who's trying to learn any skill, the advice would be, don't detest frameworks, embrace them, because they will point you in the right direction.
So basically, frameworks are a tool to gain experience in what you're doing faster.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah. I would
how does
say,
it work?
rather than tool, I would say they are a direction.
Okay.
Yeah. A tool usually mandates its usage. A screwdriver
Right.
is a tool.
Right. You can't do without
You
it.
can't do without it. The direction is that framework will say, think in this manner or do in this manner. You will reach here.
Understood.
Yeah.
Do you have an example that can explain this?
I will.
Okay.
So, as I said, Sharan, for example, the essay example, right? So, essay example, I spoke about those 3 or 4 paragraphs. Now, the direction tells you that what to write broadly, what is the purpose of each one of those paragraphs. What you write in each one of them is up
Right.
to you, completely up to you, right?
Correct.
So, when you do it over and over again, you become an experienced essay writer, and a guy who is appearing for an IAS or an IPS kind of a exam, civil services exam, would exactly know how to write something like this, and then they apply their knowledge, their creativity, etc. to it. Yeah. One of the cleanest examples of this, and I remember this very vividly. There's this film called Lakshya, Hrithik Roshan film.
Remember that.
Yeah. So I hope many of our listeners are old enough to have seen the film. Yeah. Otherwise, this will create that age difference between us and our listeners. So in that film, there's this scene where there is firing from the enemy lines on the Indian side,
Okay.
and so therefore the firing is happening, and these guys are trying to guess where is it coming from and who is firing it. Yeah, what is happening there. So there is this junior guy but experienced one. He clearly says that this is being fired from this particular gun, and there is only one gun there. And all of them are amazed that how are you able to say. He says that I understand that only this kind of gun, there is a difference, this much time difference between 2 rounds of fire. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Okay.
then after 32 or whatever 50 fires, they take time to reload it, right? So he's able to deduce that the make of the gun and the number of guns being used basis this experience. Now when he
Right.
would have started learning playing that gun, somebody would have given them this framework. This is how we use it. Now basis experience is now able to use that in deduction. Yeah. Same thing he does when he guides Hrithik Roshan that when you reach there, when you're able to win, please hide because these guys always come back. Yeah, these guys come back. The Indian army is already lying prepared for them, and they are able to win, etc., etc. So, therefore, the core point was that it was this framework that he would have learned earlier, which translated into what we call as experience. Yeah.
Right.
So, therefore, now bringing it back to marketing before
Yes,
we
please.
get into Bollywood and philosophy too much. Yeah. So from a marketing point of view, when I talk about framework, I talk about the branding frameworks, a branding expression framework where you talk about the brand ladder, then you talk about your winning choices framework, or your winning proposition framework. Then I also talk about the marketing brief framework. So these are all ways in
Right.
which at least it helps you create a comprehensive fact base. It helps you think through all possible aspects. Yeah.
It
It
trains you
trains
to
you to
think.
think. Yeah. It gives you buckets
Right.
in which you need to think before you arrive at your answer. But a framework never mandates
Perfect.
what you have to fill in that, what exactly you have to fill in that bucket. It'll tell you the purpose of the bucket. Yeah. So
Right.
therefore, uh, you know, the creativity hence is in how you fill that bucket and how you use what is filled in each bucket to arrive at your final output.
I get what you're saying. It makes sense. But I have a bit of a reservation here. I believe most problems in brand building and marketing are caused by three kinds of people. One, digital advertising software managers who believe they are doing marketing. Number two, designers who think they are doing brand building. And the third kind is what I want to talk about, marketers who believe they are the creative resource on the brand. So you're talking about marketers having, I started the conversation with that. A lot of people mistake marketing to be a creative job. I don't think it is. But the definition of creativity could vary. What, according to you, is creativity?
So,
Sudeep?
in fact, in this, very specifically to marketing, and I will only talk about it from a marketing point of view. All of us are there to solve a certain consumer problem or a brand problem, right? So, creativity is a method, or creativity is what you put to use to be able to solve a brand problem or a consumer problem by using all kind of myriad resources at your disposal. As simple as that.
Correct. Okay. It's a problem
Problem
solving
solving exercise. And the more creative you are, the more zigzag path you might follow. But at the end of it all, it is in the service of a problem. It is not creativity for the sake of creativity. Yeah. So therefore, and let me build on that. I would say marketing frameworks or marketing is all about guided creativity. Yeah.
Right.
It's
not
not
free flowing, random creativity. It's within
correct.
the
And
frameworks.
correct. Because
within
you're
the
solving a
buckets.
certain problem. Now, therefore,
Right.
the guided part of the guided creativity comes from the frameworks.
Perfect. In fact, I remember
Correct.
Joss also saying something very similar to
Correct.
the Joss Harrison in the interview
Yeah, we spoke
had
about
with him.
design
Perfect.
thinking during that episode. So
Yes. A designer accessing
Correct.
what creativity is. And
Correct.
everybody is creative. And it's good to have the context, because the moment we talk about creativity, a lot of people mistake it for imagining the script and the actors or the visuals of the brand, and it goes into completely different tangent
correct.
than what's
One of
required.
the examples that I give to people, for example, in your brand ladder, where you talk about features, attributes, and benefits, is if somebody in Pepsi was sitting and making it, there are just hundreds and thousands of choices that they could pick up for their attributes and benefits. Features is what is factual, so you can't really get creative there. Advantages and benefits are something that you can, pick up thousands of them. Yeah. Now, for the last,
whatever you
of
think
course,
can be
for the
made.
last decade or decade and a half, they've picked up this specific benefit about, Pepsi My Can, or the Pepsi itself helps you quench thirst in style. So that's been their benefit and advantage that they've spoken about, and hence their whole mantra of har ghoot mein swag hai or stuff like that. Yeah. So that is where some amount of creative leap comes in, but purely in the service of what role would a Pepsi play in the life of a consumer that it is trying to market to.
Perfect. So, to sum up, Sudeep, frameworks are like books. You might need to refer to them to a certain point, but after you've gotten used to the work itself, you may no longer need the book. So that's why you teach frameworks, so that they can be forgotten. And the whole aspect of creativity is to be in service of solving a problem, and using the frameworks to kind of set boundaries and define the problem you're solving for, and therefore use your creativity within those frameworks. That's how marketers have frameworks for creativity.
Thank you for listening to CoBB, Conversations on the Business of Brands with Sudeep Chawla and Sharan Raghavan. Subscribe and learn more at cobcast.net. That's CoBBcast.net.